it only takes a few brain impulses for someone to dissociate.
It's been a few years since the pandemic began, and things are returning to normal, sort of. But as the world starts spinning again, people are reporting this feeling of disconnection from themselves and the world. Dissociation in general is a feeling of being disconnected from your own thoughts, feelings, memories, or your sense of identity. The DSM-5-TR describes dissociative symptoms as losses of continuity in subjective experience, and includes the inability to access information or control mental functions that are normally readily accessible or controllable. When you're dissociating, you feel as though the world is distorted, and you may experience memory and concentration problems, and may even forget important personal information. What bus takes me home? What's my wife's name? Dissociative disorders that require professional assistance include depersonalization-derealization disorder, dissociative amnesia, and dissociative identity disorder. Across cultures, dissociative symptoms seem to occur as a response to repeated trauma, including captivity, neglect, and sexual, physical, and emotional abuse. And the pandemic seems to have caused new cases of dissociation, at least for two reasons. First, being stuck at home meant having lifestyle changes that brought in an increase in screen time and also the feeling of disconnection. In one study, depersonalization, or the feeling of being detached from oneself, was positively associated with increased use of digital media-based activities. And another study found that hospitalized COVID-19 patients exhibited peritraumatic dissociation and PTSD symptoms 3 months after hospitalization. So what's happening in the brain of people with dissociation? While the neuropsychological underpinnings of this mental process remain difficult to pinpoint, researchers at Stanford University have found that dissociation was preceded by a particular pattern of electrical activity in the posteromedial cortex. Nerve cells would fire in coordination at a rate of 3 Hz, or 3 cycles per second, before a dissociative experience. Pretty interesting and specific phenomenon. Another study found that stimulating the posteromedial cortex could induce dissociative behavior in mice. After the electric stimulation, mice placed on a warm surface could feel the heat but didn't start licking their feet how they usually would, which was interpreted as a disconnect between their sensations and a more complex emotional response. These findings can potentially be used to develop targeted therapies for dissociative disorders, but that's going to take some time. So what's something you can do right now if you experience dissociation? When you feel a dissociative episode starting, you can try some different grounding strategies. These are essentially some techniques you can use to mentally distract yourself. One of the most common techniques is the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. First, take a few deep breaths. Then look around you. Can you name 5 things you can see? You can pause the video as long as you need. Now, name 4 things you can touch. Pause the video again. 3 things you can hear. 2 things you can smell. 1 thing you can taste. And that's it. By now, your brain should be grounded back in the present moment. There are other ways to do grounding too, like picking a color and finding things in that color. Or if you like a challenge, you can try saying the alphabet backwards. If you're struggling with grounding, there are other techniques that might work better for you. You can get in touch with your sensory experience through sensory techniques, which involves a change in sound, temperature, taste, or touch. When you feel a dissociative episode starting, you can take a cold bath, eat spicy food, or brush your teeth. Therapists believe it helps to think of dissociation as one of our brain's many built-in mechanisms for self-preservation and enduring trauma. Without it, we may relive the same traumatic experience over and over again. Our brains are actually pretty resilient and adaptable, and they just need a little reminder that we are safe. COVID increases the risk of developing many neurological and mental disorders. If you want to understand a bit more about why COVID causes neurological disorders, check out this video.